I won an award at work, and my jealous colleague told everyone I cheated to get it. I never thought winning an award at work could turn my life into a nightmare. But here I am, writing this because what should have been a proud moment has become a source of daily stress and fear. I don't even know where to begin, so I'll just start from the beginning and try to explain how something so good went so wrong. A couple of months ago, my company held its annual meeting where they give out awards for performance. I ended up winning Employee of the Year for my division. It was a huge surprise. I'm relatively new at the company. I joined about 2 years ago, and I honestly didn't expect to get any recognition. When my name was called, I felt a mix of pride and shock. My coworkers clapped, and I went up to accept the plaque and say a few words. It was one of the best moments of my professional life. At least, it should have been. Enter my colleague. Let's call her Jane. Not her real name. Jane started at the company around the same time I did. We're on the same team, and in the past, we were friendly. Maybe not best friends, but we'd chat, grab lunch occasionally, and collaborate on projects. She's always been a bit competitive, though. For example, if I mentioned finishing a task, she'd immediately talk about how she finished too. I never took it too seriously. I figured that's just how some people are. Well, apparently me winning this award flipped a switch in Jane. The very next day at work, I could tell something was off. I greeted her in the morning, and she just gave me a tight, fake smile and muttered, "Congrats," in a tone that was anything but congratulatory. At first, I thought maybe she was just having a bad day or was disappointed she didn't win. I tried not to read into it, but as the week went on, her attitude got worse. I started hearing whispers in the office. Little things at first, like catching the tail end of conversations that would abruptly stop when I walked by, or seeing two colleagues looking at me, then quickly looking away. It was weird. Finally, a coworker I'm pretty close with, I'll call him Mark, pulled me aside. He told me that Jane had been saying some pretty nasty things behind my back. According to Mark, she was going around telling people that the only reason I won the Employee of the Year award was because I cheated somehow. When I heard that, I felt like the floor fell out from under me. Cheated? How could I possibly cheat at something like that? It's not like it was a test. The award was based on performance metrics and peer nominations. I was confused and also hurt that someone I considered a friend, or at least a friendly colleague, would spread lies about me. I asked Mark to clarify. He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, but eventually he told me that Jane was saying I must have lied about my achievements or even taken credit for other people's work to get the award. She apparently hinted that I had manipulated some project data to make myself look good. None of this is true. I've always been honest about my work, and my projects have been successful because I put in a lot of effort, often collaborating with others, giving them credit too. I felt my face burning with embarrassment and anger as Mark relayed all this. I thank Mark for telling me. He advised me to talk to our manager or HR because these were serious accusations. At that point, I was still in shock and trying to process everything. I told him I'd think about it. That evening, I went home and just broke down crying. I know that sounds dramatic, but imagine working so hard and finally feeling recognized, only to have someone basically try to rob you of that achievement by telling everyone you didn't earn it. I was also terrified. What if people believed her? Would my manager think there was some truth to it? Would this ruin my reputation at a job I truly loved? My partner, who I'll call Alex, noticed I was upset and asked what was wrong. I ended up venting the whole story to Alex. They were shocked and asked if I had any idea why Jane would do this. The only thing I could think of was jealousy, but it just felt so extreme. Yes, she and I have had a bit of a friendly rivalry on the team, but I never imagined she'd go this far. Alex comforted me and urged me to keep notes of everything being said and done, just in case. They reminded me that I know the truth and that I should stand up for myself. It helped to have someone reassure me, but I barely slept that night. The next day at work, I decided I couldn't just ignore this. I approached Jane privately in the break room when no one else was around. I tried to stay calm. I said something like, "I heard that you've been saying I didn't really earn the award. Did I do something to upset you?" My voice was probably shaking as I asked it. Jane looked at me with this cold little smile and said, "Well, did you actually earn it? People are wondering." I was taken aback. I told her firmly that, yes, I did earn my award fair and square. She just shrugged and said, "If you say so." It just seems fishy that someone who's only been here 2 years is suddenly Employee of the Year. Some of us have been here a lot longer. The way she emphasized some of us made it clear she meant herself. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I said, "Jane, I don't know why you're doing this, but it's not okay. You're spreading lies that could seriously hurt me." She then rolled her eyes and snapped, "Oh, calm down. I'm just stating the obvious. No one actually believes you got that on merit. You must have pulled strings. Or, I don't know, maybe you're just the boss's favorite." She said the last part with a kind of fake sweetness that made my stomach turn. I was so angry and upset I didn't even know how to reply. I think I said something like, "That's not true, and you know it," and she just walked out of the break room saying, "Whatever helps you sleep at night." I stood there shaking. I had never had such a hostile confrontation at work before. Part of me wanted to scream or cry, but I also realized this was beyond a personal spat now. Jane was basically accusing me of ethical breaches. This wasn't just office gossip. It could potentially end my career if taken seriously, so I took Mark's advice. I set up a meeting with my manager for that afternoon. My manager, Linda, is generally a reasonable, fair person, and we've always gotten along. In her office, I closed the door and told her everything. The award, the rumors Jane was spreading, the conversation in the break room. Linda looked concerned. She said she'd heard some murmurs but didn't realize it was this severe. She thanked me for telling her and said that spreading false accusations is a serious matter. Linda told me she would have to loop in HR because this was potentially considered harassment or defamation against a colleague. I was a bit nervous about involving HR. Things always get formal and a bit scary when HR is called in, but I knew I needed help dealing with this. Linda also reassured me that she and upper management knew I hadn't cheated. After all, the award decisions went through several levels of review. That gave me some relief, knowing that at least the people who gave me the award were confident I deserved it. Still, I left her office with my heart pounding. I didn't know what HR would do, or how Jane would react when she realized I'd reported it. It felt like a huge knot in my stomach for the rest of the day. By the next day, HR had scheduled meetings both with me and with Jane separately. I went into my meeting and the HR representative, Kevin, asked me to explain the situation. I recounted everything, trying to be as factual as possible. The specific phrases I'd heard from Mark, and I made sure to tell them Mark was a witness to the rumors, what Jane said to me in the break room, etc. Kevin listened, took notes, and asked if I had any proof. I realized that aside from witnesses and my own word, I didn't have much hard evidence. It's not like Jane was emailing these accusations, as far as I knew. It was mostly verbal gossip. Kevin said they would talk to Jane and also to anyone else who might have information, and that I should refrain from discussing the situation with coworkers in the meantime to keep it as confidential as possible during the investigation. That made sense, but it was hard. A lot of people already seemed to know something was up. I got a couple of sympathetic looks from coworkers who might have guessed I was upset about the rumors. I even had one colleague from a different team, who I only occasionally work with, come up and congratulate me on the award, and then add, "Don't let the haters get to you." So clearly, word had spread beyond just my immediate teammates. Later that day, HR met with Jane. I wasn't there, obviously, but I heard from Mark, who heard from someone else who sits near HR, that Jane came out of the meeting looking furious. I can only imagine how that conversation went. From what HR told me afterward, Jane denied trying to spread any malicious rumors and claimed she was just raising legitimate concerns because she cares about fairness. What a load of garbage. But HR basically told her that unless she has proof of any wrongdoing, she needs to stop talking about me altogether, or she could face disciplinary action for harassment. For a brief moment, I thought that might be the end of it. After HR stepped in, Jane stopped making snide comments to my face. Things got quieter, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she was going to let it go now that her bluff was called. I was wrong. So wrong. Over the next couple of weeks, I noticed a chill in the office that went beyond just Jane. A few people who used to chat with me in the break room were suddenly distant. One even asked me outright, "Hey, is everything okay?" I heard some stuff, but when I tried to ask what they heard, they backpedaled and said, "Never mind, office gossip is stupid." I could sense that while Jane might have been officially silenced at work, she was likely still trash-talking me outside of work, or in very hush-hush ways. Sure enough, one evening I got a message on my personal social media from a coworker in a different department. We're friendly, but not super close. He basically said, "I thought you should know, I ran into Jane at an industry mixer/happy hour, and she was telling a bunch of people from other companies that there's an investigation into you at work for faking your numbers to get that award." He also said that she sounded convincing and concerned, like she was doing the right thing by exposing me. I thanked him for telling me, and my heart sank all over again. Not only was she not stopping, she was actually spreading this beyond our company now. I felt utterly helpless and furious. She was poisoning my reputation both inside and outside my company, all because I got an award that she thought she deserved. It's insane. I talked to HR again the next day, telling them what I learned. They said since this was outside the workplace it was tricky, but they would document it. They also said they would formally remind Jane of the confidentiality of the investigation, which was ironic because the investigation was basically over when they warned her to stop. At this point, I was waking up every morning with dread about going to work. My anxiety was through the roof. Alex, my partner, was becoming really concerned for my mental health. They suggested I maybe talk to a lawyer about what Jane was doing, because it seemed like defamation. I decided to hold off on legal action for the time being, hoping the company would handle it. I did start documenting absolutely everything, though. Dates, times, who said what, who was around. Despite all this drama, I still had a job to do. I tried my best to focus on my projects, but even there, Jane found ways to mess with me. For instance, we were supposed to collaborate on a report. We normally would work together. We had been assigned before all this. She basically stonewalled me. She wouldn't share information I needed, ignored my emails, and missed meetings with me. I didn't want to complain again immediately, but this was affecting work. I let our manager Linda know that I was struggling to get cooperation from Jane on the joint project. Linda said she'd talk to her. I don't know what Linda said to Jane about the project, but it didn't help much. Jane did start communicating, but in the most perfunctory, passive-aggressive way, like one-line answers to questions in email, or sending me large data files at the very last minute with no explanation. It was clear she was trying to make me fail, or at least make me look bad by causing delays. One day, we had a team meeting to discuss progress on that project. During the meeting, Jane subtly implied I wasn't pulling my weight. She said something like, well, I had to complete the analysis on my own because I didn't get the data from someone in time, looking directly at me. I was astonished and immediately spoke up, saying I had been waiting on info from her. The manager quickly moved the meeting along, but I could tell from a couple of coworkers' faces that seeds of doubt were being planted yet again, courtesy of Jane. After that meeting, I went back to HR to report that Jane was now retaliating against me on work matters and trying to undermine my performance. They advised me to continue documenting and said they would speak to Jane again. I could see even the HR representative was a bit exasperated by now. It's now been roughly 2 months since I won the award. What should have been a celebration has turned into a drawn-out misery. HR's involvement has only somewhat helped. Jane has become more covert in her tactics, but I know she's still actively trying to ruin my reputation. I'm at a loss. I love my job, or at least I used to. I worked hard for that award, and I hate that she's taken this joy away from me. I'm constantly on edge at work, wondering what she'll do next or who she's whispered to. It's gotten to the point where I dread even checking my email for fear of some new sabotage or complaint. I'm sharing this here because I feel like I'm living in a work drama novel and I don't know how to handle it. Have any of you ever dealt with a coworker who just can't stand to see you succeed and goes to these lengths? How did you cope? I'm trying to stay professional and calm, but inside I'm just exhausted and scared. Scared of losing my job, scared of my reputation being ruined, and honestly scared of what Jane will do next. Thank you for reading this far. I'll update if anything significant happens. Right now I just really needed to get this all off my chest. I'm dreading going to work tomorrow, but I also know I have to stand my ground. I earned that award, I know I did. I just wish Jane would leave me alone and let me do my job in peace. Update 1. Hi everyone, I wanted to come back and share what's been happening since my last post. First off, thank you so much for all the advice and support. I was blown away by how many people empathize with my situation. It made me feel a little less alone in this mess. It's been about 3 weeks since I posted. In that time, things initially seemed to calm down, but it turned out to be the calm before another storm. Shortly after my post, HR formally concluded their investigation into Jane's behavior. From what I was told, they gave her a written warning for harassment and unprofessional conduct. She was instructed, in no uncertain terms, to cease all gossip and defamation regarding me, or face further consequences. I remember feeling a huge wave of relief when I heard that. I even took a day off afterward, just to mentally recover from all the stress. When I returned to work, Jane was noticeably quiet. She wouldn't speak to me, or even look at me. Fine by me, I thought. Some coworkers who knew about the situation, like Mark and a couple of others who had been interviewed by HR, told me that Jane was furious about the warning, but was basically told to shut up or else. For a brief moment, I felt vindicated HR had my back, and maybe this nightmare was finally over. I should have known it wasn't that simple. A week after the warning, I got called into another meeting with HR. To my absolute shock, Jane had filed a complaint against me. In her complaint, she alleged that I was creating a, quote, hostile work environment for her. She claimed that my false accusations, i.e., me reporting her for her rumors, had damaged her reputation and that I was retaliating against her by turning colleagues against her. I almost laughed in the HR rep's face when he told me this. This had to be a joke, right? I was the one begging to just be left alone to do my job, and she was painting herself as the victim. Luckily, the HR representative, Kevin, the same person as before, didn't seem to be buying it either. His tone was very much, "We have to follow up on all complaints, but just tell me your side." I reiterated everything, how I only ever went to HR because of her slander, how she was the one trying to turn colleagues against me. I pointed out that it made zero sense that I'd randomly start harassing her out of nowhere. My actions were responses to her behavior. Kevin nodded and told me not to worry. They had a full record of the previous issues. However, company protocol meant they had to do a mediation session between us. I really didn't want to sit in a room with Jane again, but I agreed, hoping this would put an end to her nonsense for good. The mediation involved me, Jane, Kevin from HR, and our manager Linda. It was one of the most surreal and infuriating experiences of my life. During the meeting, Jane put on her best innocent act. She said things like, "I feel so uncomfortable coming to work now, because my name has been spreading rumors about me gossiping." Yes, she essentially was complaining that I told people she was spreading rumors, which she was, and only HR and a couple witnesses knew I reported it, so she was basically admitting to telling others about it herself. She also said, "I just want us to have a good working relationship, but I feel like she's been trying to undermine me ever since the award." The gall of this woman, to sit there and play victim while I literally have been losing sleep and dreading work because of her. I did my best to keep my cool. I responded that I have felt uncomfortable at work because of her actual actions, the lies, the sabotage on our joint project. I brought up how she stonewalled me and tried to make me look bad in the meeting, which Linda already knew about. I told them how I'd received messages from colleagues. I didn't name the person, since he spoke to me privately, saying Jane was continuing her smear campaign outside the office. I basically said, "I have tried everything to resolve this professionally speaking to her directly, involving management and HR, yet Jane's behavior continues. I just want to do my job without being slandered or sabotaged." At this point, Linda, our manager, actually backed me up. She acknowledged that she'd seen examples of Jane being uncooperative on work tasks. Linda also said directly that, in her view, the issue stemmed from Jane not accepting the outcome of the award. That made Jane go quiet and red in the face. She had been expecting at least our manager to stay neutral, I think, but hearing Linda essentially say, "This is on you," was a blow to her. The HR mediator, Kevin, wrapped up by essentially telling Jane her complaint didn't seem to have merit given the context. He reiterated to both of us, but really it was aimed at her, that any further incidents could lead to serious disciplinary action, including termination. I left that meeting shaken, but hopeful that maybe finally Jane would just stop. For a couple of days, things were actually okay. Jane kept completely to herself. I noticed her eating lunch alone at her desk, and she left me alone as well. A few coworkers who were aware of the situation checked in on me, expressing relief that it seemed resolved. Mark even joked, maybe she'll actually get some work done now, instead of plotting World War III. I laughed for the first time in a while. Then, the latest bomb dropped. Yesterday, I was CC'd on an email exchange that made my blood run cold. It was between Jane and a client we both have worked with on separate occasions. Jane had apparently reached out to this client from her personal email, not the company email, to warn them that any performance stats or case studies I presented to them might be unreliable, because I was under investigation for integrity issues. Essentially, she was trying to undermine me with a client under the guise of giving a friendly heads up. The client, confused, forwarded the exchange to our department director, above Linda, asking if there was some issue with me that they should be aware of. And that director included me and Linda in the loop when he followed up. I could not believe it. This was beyond office politics. Jane was now actively dragging our company's reputation, and mine, through the mud with a client, all based on her vile lies. Within an hour, Jane was called into a meeting with the director and HR. I wasn't in that meeting, but I got the blow-by-blow afterward from Linda. Apparently, Jane at first tried to defend herself by saying she was just looking out for the client's best interest, but the director and HR absolutely ripped her a new one, pardon my language. They told her what she did was completely inappropriate, possibly actionable, as in firing offense. The director even apologized to the client and made it clear that I was a valued employee with no integrity issues. As of today, Jane has been suspended without pay pending further review. My guess is they're consulting with legal and preparing whatever they need to officially terminate her, because this time, she really went too far. I feel vindicated that the higher-ups finally saw her true colors in a way that directly affected the business. Emotionally, I'm a bit all over the place. I'm relieved that it looks like this might be the end of her tormenting me at work. I'm angry that she nearly tarnished my relationship with an important client. I'm anxious wondering what she might do next. Will she be fired? Will she try to retaliate against me personally if she is? For now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. The atmosphere at work today was weirdly upbeat for me. People knew something went down, and a few colleagues actually came by to congratulate me. I guess word got out that Jane got in trouble and probably won't be back. I didn't badmouth her to anyone. I just said something like, "Yeah, it's been rough, but I'm glad things are being resolved." I'm cautious about celebrating too soon. Until I know Jane is officially gone, and maybe even after, I'm going to keep my guard up. This has been one hell of a ride, and I've learned not to underestimate how far someone's jealousy and spite can go. I'll update again when I know the final outcome. Hopefully the next time I post, it'll be to say that Jane is out of the picture for good. For now, I'm just trying to breathe and regain a sense of normalcy at work. Update 2, final. Well, I wish I had a storybook ending to share, but reality is messy. Here's what happened since my last update. As expected, Jane was fired. HR and management finalized everything within a few days of her suspension. I was told she didn't take it well. Not that I'm surprised. Apparently, when they gave her the termination notice, she exploded at HR, accusing them of conspiring with me to destroy her career. Security had to accompany her as she cleaned out her desk. I intentionally worked from home that day to avoid any drama. I thought that would be the end of it. In some ways, it was. The workplace itself has been peaceful. No more whispers, no more tension. I've slowly been repairing my relationships with colleagues. It's strange, but with Jane gone, a couple of coworkers actually confessed that they had initially believed some of her rumors. They apologized to me for that. It's a mix of relief, knowing I wasn't crazy, people really were being influenced by her lies, and residual hurt that they doubted me. But I'm trying to let it go and move forward. Unfortunately, Jane wasn't about to fade away quietly. Last week, after she was terminated, I got a barrage of messages from unknown numbers and social media accounts. It didn't take a genius to figure out who was behind them. The messages ranged from angry rants to bizarre justifications. One said, "I hope you're happy, you backstabbing B***H. You took everything from me." Another read, "They'll see the truth about you eventually." I even got one that almost sounded pleading. "You know I was right about you. Why couldn't you just admit it?" I didn't respond to any of them. I blocked each number and account as they came, and I saved screenshots of the truly threatening ones, just in case. The most frightening incident happened just 2 days ago. I usually stay late on Wednesdays, and by the time I left the office, it was nearly 8 p.m. and dark outside. As I walked to my car in the nearly empty parking lot, someone stepped out from behind a column. Of course, it was Jane. My heart jumped into my throat. She looked unhinged. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying, or maybe not sleeping, I'm not sure. She started off in a mocking tone, like, "Look who it is, the woman of the hour." I immediately told her she wasn't supposed to be here and that if she didn't leave, I'd call security. She laughed and said, "Security's not here now, are they?" My stomach dropped. I made sure there was plenty of distance between us and held my phone in my hand, ready to call for help. What followed was a rant I'll never forget. She started yelling about how I ruined everything. She said I had no idea what I'd cost her, that I'd basically destroyed her life. According to her, she couldn't get another job because I slandered her. To be clear, I never spoke a word to anyone outside necessary channels. Her own actions got her fired. She got increasingly agitated, shouting that it was all my fault, that I always had it out for her. Totally not true. She was the one fixated on me. I tried to stay calm and told her she needed to leave, or I would call the police. That's when she got in my face, well, with several feet still between us, thankfully, and spat out, "You think you've won? This isn't over. I'll make sure everyone knows what a fraud you are. I'll make sure you pay for this." I was shaking, but I managed to hit the button on my phone to dial 911, loudly saying, "I'm calling the police." Jane, hearing me say that, backed off a bit. She hurled one last line, "Enjoy your reward, you lying snake," and then stormed off to her car. I stayed on the line with the emergency operator, who sent a security guard out to escort me and took a report. By the time the police arrived, Jane was long gone. I filed an official report for harassment/trespassing. The company is also looking into a restraining order to bar her from the premises and from contacting me. I don't know if she'll actually try to carry out any of her threats, but the fact that she waited for me in the dark parking lot has me pretty rattled. I've been careful about my routines now, and I ask a coworker to walk out with me if it's late. So that's where things stand. Jane is out of my life professionally, but the aftermath is, well, it's a lot. I feel a mixture of relief and lingering fear. In the office, I finally feel respected again. People have even started openly praising my work and the award without the cloud of Jane's gossip. But outside the office, I'm looking over my shoulder,